you to BBCBE for the invite to FEM. And let's put my presentation. Okay. Yeah, so essentially, yeah, we would like to wish all the youth a happy Youth Month, in fact, and we celebrate the youth of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Just to give an indication in terms of the response that FEM had assisted the construction industry in terms of COVID-19, I'll just go through some of the highlights. We donated 75,000 face masks for free to the construction industry. And the shareholders of FEM approved 100 million rand in donation for the vaccine funding. And in fact, the Rand Mutual Assurance Company and the Compensation Fund in total with FEM have contributed 1.35 billion rands towards the vaccine funding. Okay, in terms of the outlook for South Africa, so it's quite positive, and I think there's a lot of unfortunate media publicity where there's a definite attention towards the negative sentiment and in terms of corruption. But I think we also then need to focus on a lot of good that's taking place within South Africa. Being part of the BRICS is certainly a distinct advantage for the economy, and I think for the youth, it's certainly an opportunity to try and look at the export market. When we look at the financial literacy, with South Africa in comparison to the other BRICS countries, we're relatively high, with more than 40% of the population being financially literate, and that's in comparison then to the other advanced economies in the world. Okay, I would recommend then the youth then to be, to keep, pay attention, sorry, to the sustainable infrastructure development symposium that was launched last year, and there's 276 projects in the total investment value, sorry, at around 2.3 trillion rands in investments. So that's huge, and I think if the sectors, if you could identify those, your courses that you plan to study, it should align something to that, especially within transport, water and sanitation, agriculture, which is massive. South Africa being one of the largest citrus producers in the world as well. Okay. In terms of construction and how it's evolving, it's massive. The thing is, the old way of building seems to be fading away, and unfortunately, the manual labor as well has to also change along with that in terms of the fourth industrial revolution, and then we're seeing a massive number of innovation taking place within the construction sector. From prefabrication, modular construction, we're seeing a massive amount of that taking place, for example, in China and in Australia as well. And certainly if South Africa has to remain competitive, we would have to do similar. So I think certainly when we look at building information modeling, when we talk about health and safety as well, we're looking at the drones that can monitor health and safety on sites. It's huge. I think when you look at systems as well, where everything seems to be quite paper-driven in terms of health and safety, that seems to be moving more towards electronic as well. And in fact, some health and safety companies are actually storing information on the cloud, and where people are able to then share near misses, for example, on sites in real time. Okay, so I did a course through Harvard, the FinTech program, and I thought I would maybe speak a bit about the FinTech potential within South Africa. It's already it's already kickstarted within government as well. And if you look at it in terms of 2018, there were 38 million mobile users in South Africa. So that's quite huge. The total number of mobile connections though was 87.07 million. So it's quite an opportune moment then to focus on fintech. And when we look at the Intergovernmental Fintech Working Group, the IFWG, that's been established, and the vision is for South Africa to be the leading fintech hub for Africa, in fact, and promoting financial inclusion while spurring competition, digital skills, and economic growth through innovation. So I think when we talk of the likes, it's of course in the media with cryptocurrency, but also the banks as well, where they've moved away from the bank tellers example. For example, we can do all the banking on your mobile application. I think there's huge opportunity. Then we talk about crowdfunding. So I think for the youth to then focus on fintech as well, where there's going to be massive opportunities going forward, not just in South Africa, but throughout the rest of the world Okay, and if you look at it, we should be proud of our financial sector. The banking sector is rated quite highly around the world, according to Brand Finance. The top 10 strongest banking brands in the world. Sorry, it's Capitec is actually in third place, and with FNB in fourth place. Okay, so just to shift or to lower the gear, but and talk a bit about the concerns from an FEM perspective. We are the COIDA insurer, and according to the Compensation for Occupational Injuries and Diseases Act, if a company or if you have one or more employees, you have to register for COIDA. So it's compulsory insurance, and we cover around 300,000 employees nationally, which isn't a large number in comparison to the entire workforce. But just to bring to attention that the number of accidents that occur are quite alarming, and just to be mindful. But I'll speak a bit about that in the next slide. So when we talk about the International Labour Organization, they talk about 2.78 million workplace fatalities per year. And if you talk about it in context of the numbers per day, there's 7,500 people that die daily due to unsafe or unhealthy working conditions. The highest was 6,500 on average die from work-related diseases, and 1,000 from occupational accidents. So, you may be thinking, why bring this up in terms of this presentation? But what we also find is that why are young people more exposed to workplace injuries? And I think in the fact that when younger people go into the workplace, they're fairly inexperienced in terms of health and safety, and they're more prone to taking on additional risk. I think there's also some sort of desperation out there. So I think in terms of the youth, to encourage that, you educate yourself in terms of health and safety, and so you do not become a statistics at the end of the day. I did write an article for the Sheikh Management magazine, and we also then engaged with government as well to say that how can we then incorporate occupational health and safety as part of a school curriculum. So I think, when you look at the statistics, it's quite alarming, and hopefully that when somebody goes into the workforce, they would be far more competent and capable in terms of looking after their own safety. Okay, in terms of health and safety as a profession as well, I think there's huge opportunity when we talk about the fourth industrial revolution. When we talk about occupational diseases as well, with the new technology, with the new materials that are being developed, especially with electric vehicles, there's going to be more risks in terms of occupational diseases. So certainly, more opportunities for health and safety professionals, and we can see a significant growth, of that in terms of South Africa and across the world as well. And I think just focusing on the current pandemic that we have due to COVID-19, we've seen that much more demand in terms of that, for health and safety professionals. We mustn't also forget that we have the African continental free trade areas, where there will be free tariffs on up to 90% of imports between the African countries, within the next 5 years. And I think certainly that's going to see a huge increase in the demand for suitably qualified health and safety professionals, especially when we then talk about the new legislation and regulations under the Occupational Health and Safety Act, and we just seen the new OSH Act bill that's been published and out for comment, where we will then see a greater requirement for occupational health and safety practitioners. I think also, just interacting with health and safety practitioners, you get this sort of sense that it's a very rewarding job as well, where you are able to then save lives of many people in the workplace. Okay, to speak about education and from an FEM perspective, this is something that we're hugely, proud to be trying. Well, we're proud to try and promote and encourage the youth to study, and especially with COVID-19, where we've seen that's been quite a strain in terms of the economy as well, and many people who have been dropping out of school. But we encourage people to stay in school and of course try and further their studies as well. To just speak a bit about the FEM CSI initiatives. So FEM supports 17 NGOs in the education space to make education accessible. In 2020, FEM reached 21,000 learners in 7 provinces through these partnerships. The program that we supported focused on early childhood development in both primary and high school. And in 2020, FEM awarded 28 bursaries in 2020. And so I think it's a massive drive from FEM. So it was around in 2016 and 2017 where we had allocated 750 million rands towards the scholarship that we've then partnered with the Make a Difference Foundation, and that's been going fantastically well. It's been well received. So just to move to the next slide. So in terms of the scholarships, we've partnered with Make a Difference, and it's the CEO is Francois Pinard, and the deadline for submissions is on the 30th of June, and the eligibility criteria is that learners in grade 7, for learners in grade 7 to 12, the academic performance should be 65% aggregate. And so we're not, part of the criteria wouldn't be somebody who's performing it exceptionally well, like with A plus, etc., but also to try and identify students with leadership qualities as well. And the gross income per household should not exceed 25,000 rand per month, and it's only for South African citizens. Okay, and yeah, so I have sent this PDF through to Muffinello, and hopefully he will then send it through to everybody. The applications, as it indicates, is open up until the 30th of June. Okay, and then this occurs on an annual basis. And so next year we will then send out the request for applications, and it will then close around June as well. So this year's intake will be then for 2022. And I must say that, based on the feedback and the comments from the policyholders at FEM, and so sorry, just to make mention that it's not only restricted to FEM policyholders, but to employees in the construction industry within South Africa. Okay, so I think that's it in terms of my presentation. I'd like to once again say thank you for this opportunity to present to you.